The Genesis flood is one of the most fascinating events in history. The flood in the Bible was the most significant, longest storm the world had ever seen. This worldwide catastrophic event forever changed planet Earth's physical landscape. The world we have today is not the world that was created. Everything was affected, from climate to topography. It was as if God was wiping evil from the world and starting fresh. However, this new world would have the scars of sin deeply embedded in it. Just as Adam and Eve could not continue to live in the Garden of Eden after they had sinned, so mankind, after proving their drive for evil, could not be allowed to live in the perfect world God had created. What was the world like before the flood? It was a very different place, and it is hard for us to imagine. The Bible does not give a detailed description of this paradise, but using hints from Scripture and some scientific discoveries, we can formulate a likely theory. God created one supercontinent surrounded by oceans. Think of it as a massive island with gently rolling hills, beautiful forest glades, and rich farmland. The climate? It was pretty well perfect. No extreme hot or cold weather, just moderate temperatures worldwide all year. No scorching deserts, freezing tundras, impassable mountain ranges, or natural disasters. It was an ideal place for human civilization to grow and complete God's mandate of filling the earth with a godly race of people. Was the expanding population grateful to God for giving them such a beautiful and productive place to live? Were they so horrified by the consequences of Adam's disobedience and Cain's punishment that they rejected sin and served their loving Creator? No. Evil infiltrated the core of every human being, wrapping its insidious coils around every thought that entered their mind until they no longer cared about good and evil. It was all about self-satisfaction and self-fulfillment. Violence, war, and crime shredded this perfect world until even the mercy and kindness of God could stand it no more. God's holy nature cried out for justice. Death was the only reasonable penalty for the hideous acts that had been committed. So, death by drowning was decreed for a human population of up to 10 million people totally committed to the most vile acts of wickedness. Yet, one man and his small family remained loyal to God out of the millions of people on this supercontinent. God decided to reboot the human race with Noah, his 3 sons, and their wives. He gave Noah explicit instructions on how to build an ark that would survive the incredible turmoil that was to come. People have mocked the idea of Noah's ark, and most illustrations are so far from the truth that they deserve it. However, careful study reveals that Noah's ark could do everything the Bible claims it did. Most illustrations show the ark with a pointed or rounded bow. Ships need this to move effectively through the water and reach their destination. The false assumption is that the ark had somewhere to go. Think about it. All land was deep underwater. There was nowhere to go. The ark had one job: to stay afloat in the worst and longest storm this world has ever seen. With that in mind, the ark was built in a large rectangular shape, no pointed ends. This shape has been shown to be the most stable in water and practically unsinkable. Even though the ark probably took 55 to 75 years to build, it seems like an impossible project for such a small family. This is based on the assumption that Noah and his sons built the ark alone. There is nothing in Scripture that dictates this. What about all those animals? Isn't it unrealistic to think that all the animals would fit on the ark, let alone the food, water, and time required to look after them? It sounds like a total fantasy until a person examines the facts. First, The Ark was massive. Its floor space would have held 340 semi-trailers. Second, Noah didn't need all the varieties of birds and animals we have today. God designed our genes to be extremely adaptable. All Noah needed were the heads of families. For example, one set of canines is all that is required to produce all the dogs, wolves, foxes, etc. that we have today. It has been estimated that Noah only needed 2,000 animals and birds on the Ark to produce all the variety we have today. What about the big animals? They would have taken up a lot of space, especially if it included dinosaurs. Those things were massive. Again, this ignores facts. Although some animals are large, the average size is that of a sheep. In addition, it assumes that fully mature animals came on board. Most likely, it was baby or young animals so that they would have maximum reproductive capability after the flood. And even the largest dinosaur came from an egg no larger than a football. The animals on the Ark would need less than half the available floor space. The food needed would have taken about 15% of the space, with another 9% for drinking water. That still leaves about 25% of the space for Noah and his family to live. 2,000 is still a lot of animals for 8 people to care for. True, however, some of the animals were likely in hibernation for a good portion of the time. Researchers have shown how low-tech technology available at Noah's time could have efficiently performed many tasks, such as feeding the animals and cleaning their pens. Remember that the evolutionary lie that cavemen evolved into more intelligent beings is the reverse of what actually happened. Adam was created able to use 100% of his brain at peak efficiency, but that ability has been slowly eroding since the fall. Its impact would have been minimal by Noah's time. Noah was a highly intelligent person who figured out the best way to accomplish the mission God had given him. Did dinosaurs make it on the Ark, or did they go extinct during the flood? They would not have made it on the Ark if they had gone extinct before the flood. The Bible plainly states that God brought every kind of bird and animal to Noah. God didn't forget dinosaurs. There is evidence that some varieties existed in the Middle Ages or later. Remember that the word dinosaur was first used in 1842 by Richard Owen. Any references to these beasts in previous writings would have used other names such as behemoth, leviathan, monster, dragon, etc. When all was ready, the flood came. Contrary to popular images, although the rain, the floodgates of heaven, contributed to the flood, they were probably not the source of most of the water. The fountains of the deep were broken open. Underwater volcanoes, rising ocean floors, sinking continents, and massive tsunamis soon submerged the land. Some may wonder how the floodwaters could have covered the mountain peaks. As we said previously, the mountains we see today did not exist before the flood. They were made during the flood as the Earth's crust shifted. Therefore, only relatively low hills would need to be covered. There is more than enough water on Earth right now to cover the planet. The Challenger Deep, the deepest part of the ocean, is over a mile deeper than Mount Everest is high. This planet has massive amounts of water. Where did all the floodwaters go? Right into our current oceans. As the flood likely started with the supercontinent sinking and the ocean floor rising, the tremendous geological activities, volcanoes, earthquakes, the supercontinent breaking apart, etc., would have caused the opposite effect of the ocean floors sinking and the new continents rising. The Grand Canyon and other geological features are the results of water runoff. All this activity near the end of the flood triggered what has become known as the Ice Age. The fossils we have today are not the result of long ages, but are a record of the order of burial during the flood. One question that puzzles people is why we have only found a few or none human fossils from the time of the flood. Many people realize that 99.75% of the fossil record consists of shallow marine organisms like shellfish or plants and trees. Only 0.25% is of anything else. Most humans and animals would have sought the highest ground available. Humans would have likely made rafts, etc., which means their bodies would have been near the surface when they died. Dead bodies float, decay, and become fish food. Few would have made it to the bottom of the ocean to be fossilized. Although the flood was a divine judgment on a wicked world, God used natural methods and forces to accomplish His will. This means it can be scientifically studied to understand what God accomplished and how He accomplished it. Jesus clearly believed in a literal global flood, as recorded in the book of Genesis. And just as it happened in the days of Noah, so will it also be in the days of the Son of Man. People were eating, they were drinking, they were marrying, and they were being given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Luke chapter 17, verses 26 and 27. Biblically or scientifically, there is no reason for any Christian to doubt the literal history of the global flood as recorded in Genesis. Please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you'll join a community committed to uncovering timeless truths and the deeper meanings hidden within the stories of old. Let's continue this journey together.